Okay, hi. So my name is Carrie Johnston, and I am filming today on the traditional territory of Champagne-Anajac First Nations in beautiful Dakwakata-Haines Junction. And my guest today is Georgia. Georgia, tell us who you are.
Yeah, I'm Georgia Hammond, and I live and work in Charnock-Wichin territory in Dawson City, and that's where I'm talking from today.
And what is it that you do?
I do a few things. Sort of the overarching job that I have is that I'm a cook, but I do that in a bunch of different capacities. So, but as far as entrepreneurship goes, I currently run a business that makes small batch spices, vinegars, seasonings, that type of stuff made from locally grown or foraged botanicals. So yeah, that's my current little side hustle, I guess you could call it.
And what's it called?
Axe Crocus.
And how long have you been running your business, your side hustle?
I've been running this business for just over 2 years. And then I previously had another business that I ran with a partner that kind of did the same thing. So I've been in this little industry for about 5 years, but Axe Crocus is just over 2 years old.
Hmm. And what are you learning about your business model over the last couple of months as we face the pandemic?
Well, I'm sort of learning that, and maybe I already knew this, but it's sort of more clear than ever that I don't really have a business model. I just sort of operate kind of on a whim, which is something that I have a luxury to do, obviously. But I think in a way what I'm learning is that a lot of times the way that I operate can be sort of a disadvantage because I tend to do things really slowly and sort of very flexible and very changing. And I think in this current moment, that's sort of proven to be a bit of an advantage unexpectedly, is that I can very quickly sort of downsize what I'm doing or get right back to business very quickly because I do have just such a very small operation. So I am pretty protected that way. So in a weird way, something that has kind of been a disadvantage in that I haven't really been able to go all in on this has kind of turned into an advantage because I am not all in on it. So I can afford to be pretty flexible. So that's something I think I'm learning right now. Yeah.
And what are you learning about your customers?
I'm learning that I have really, my customers really are very supportive, and I knew that already. And it's so wonderful being like a really small operator in the Yukon because people do just really want you to succeed. And that's just like a really wonderful feeling, but definitely even more so in the past few months. Like usually after Christmas and before market season is my slowest time of year. And I had actually a jump in sales between kind of March and April, which is pretty much my deadest time. It's before I start growing and harvesting, and it's after I've, finished Christmas. And I ended up selling, having suddenly all these online orders and stuff. And I think it was really just people trying to reach out and remind me, like, don't give up. People are still here and we're still here to support you. And that really meant a lot because when everything sort of started to collapse, I was kind of like, okay, it's fine. I'll just shut it down. I don't need to do this. This is not that important. And, I'll just figure something else out. And then to have people, without even really me reaching out to them, for people to just take that on themselves was really meaningful. And it really actually gave me a sort of little kick in the butt to be like, no, just figure out a way to make this work because, you have all this support.
Yeah, so I'm just percentage-ish, like did a lot of your sales come from markets and sort of like point of contact sales, or was a lot of it online, or what kind of was disrupted in your revenue?
Well, that's what's sort of funny in that this has happened in my slowest part of the year. So yeah, I sell mostly at markets and online. I don't do a lot of wholesale, although that was kind of my plan this year, was to this was kind of my year to sort of scale everything up. So I'm sort of still in limbo there, but yeah, no, for the past 2 years, it's been markets and then like summer markets and then Christmas markets and then online sales. So weirdly, having this happen in my quietest part of the year when I'm not really selling very much wasn't really that big of a disruption. But and now that the markets are back opening up, like I probably will be selling at the Dawson market once I have some inventory built back up. But
I guess that's a good problem to have.
yeah, well, I work in really small batches, and so like I said, like normally I start the summer with a bit of inventory, but because my slow season was randomly a little bit busier, yeah, that is a good problem to have.
So are you kind of like a small batch producer?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
can you describe a little bit what that means?
To me, it means that, well, because I work with seasonal products, or seasonal ingredients, sorry, that are either foraged or grown, I really have a limited supply of those ingredients. I can only produce, so one of my best-selling products is a spruce tip vinegar made with raw apple cider vinegar and locally foraged spruce tips. I can really only make as much vinegar as I have time to harvest spruce tips, and also for how long the spruce tip season lasts. So my batches are really kind of dictated by that, if that makes sense. So yeah, so once I'm out of something, I am out of it. That means I don't reproduce. I can't make spruce tip vinegar in December. I can only make it, in actually, well, right now is when it's on. So yeah, if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does. So what have you learned, like, as business owners, we're leaders. So what are you learning about leadership right now? What's your observation?
Definitely been looking to other businesses in the Yukon for sort of leadership. So a lot of really cool small businesses run in the Yukon that are, I think, doing really neat things right now. Like I'm seeing a lot of people do sort of giveaways and those types of like outreach things. And so I've been kind of just observing those types of things. Definitely Joella Hogan in Mayo that does this Yukon Soaps Company is like somebody that I follow really closely for the way that she connects her business to her community and what's happening. And I think that's what I'm kind of learning about. Like I don't really consider myself a leader, but that's kind of what I'm seeing, what people that I consider leaders are doing is like, it's not enough to just kind of keep your business going. It's sort of, you also need to like find out how your business fits into what's happening and find like a role for it.
It's a really nice way of saying it. What advice do you have for emerging entrepreneurs right now, people who are looking to start a business?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I've started quite a few little businesses and I would say that the things that I've learned is, you do need to have a commitment. You need to have a little bit longer of an attention span than I tend to have, I think, and have a plan. I think though the most important thing really is, especially now when things are going to change, and it's not just going to be this, the climate's going to change, our supply lines are going to change, all these different things are going to change. I think it's just so important to be flexible, and however that works within your business to sort of build flexibility into what you're doing seems to me to be a really important thing right now. The old kind of models of being everything, your margins being so tight and being so committed to, a bricks and mortar type of thing. Like I see a lot of successful businesses right now that are thinking smaller and more flexible. And, I think that's something I would, it depends what business you're trying to get into, but I think a smaller, more flexible operation seems to me a smart way to go these days.
We certainly hear that a lot on the podcast, is like that idea of adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
What's been sort of one of your ways of sort of keeping your cool or staying grounded and in all of this as we've been,
It's kind of the same as it always is for me, and that is just to be outside, which is why the rain, when we first started talking, it was kind of just like having a bummer couple of days here because it has been so rainy. It's beautiful right now, but being outside, gardening is something that I get more and more from every year. So that's been a big one. And then just like, our community. It's definitely the landscape, and then also the community here that's what definitely keeps me going for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, and we're raising some turkeys. This is a second year we've done that, so that keeps me pretty busy. But
They do. How many turkeys do you have?
well, we had 25. We have 23 now, so we have lost a couple. But
That happens. Hmm.
mhm.
Any any thoughts on sort of as the Yukon reopens and we're talking about economic recovery, like what are the values or what are your hopes and dreams about what that might look like for us as we have had a bit of a reset?
I've been thinking about this a lot. I have a lot of friends in different tourism adjacent areas, people who work for parks or people that run small, bed and breakfasts or those types of businesses or restaurants. And I think there's an opportunity for us to sort of rethink, and I'm speaking maybe specifically about Dawson. I'm not going to speak for the whole Yukon, but for Dawson, that maybe this is an opportunity to rethink what our product is that we're selling to visitors. Like we have sort of relied on these large tours coming through and companies like Holland America and Princess and things like that. And I think there's a really cool opportunity for us to have a smaller vision of our product, if that makes sense, like more kind of like smaller businesses, local products, bed and breakfast, those types of smaller businesses that are selling something I think that is maybe a little bit more authentic than what I mean. We've been kind of selling the gold rush here for a long time, and every year we're selling a little bit more of a diverse product, whether it's outdoor activities or whether it's local food or First Nations cultural activities here. And I think it'd be really great to sort of keep focusing on that. Like, what is authentic to what's happening here right now? What do the people who live here right now have to offer? What are their skills? What's their culture? As opposed to this kind of focus on, I don't really know, maybe more traditional tourism type things.
Mm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And that's a really, it's a good local perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, just the same idea of like things being smaller. Like maybe we want to offer smaller packages for smaller groups of people rather than relying on huge tours to come through. And really, I always wonder kind of what the experience is for those people anyway. Like it'd be really awesome to be able to offer people a more intimate experience of this place. And there's lots of cool businesses that do stuff like that take people on hikes or, whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any sort of aha moments for you over the last little while, like things that have sort of shifted your worldview? I mean, that last story was a bit of an example there, but any others to share?
Well, when things sort of first started to be disrupting, I really had this feeling that everything was going to fall apart and like the grocery stores were going to be empty. And I started planting like, I grow a lot of herbs and seasonings and that type of stuff because that's what I make my products out of. And I was just like starting to plant like only food and like, really kind of panicking. And I think this community is more resilient than I thought it was as far as those things go. Like I've been worried about food security here for a long time, and I've been sort of trying to figure out how to participate in kind of solving that problem. But it is pretty incredible, like how people were able, suddenly everybody's like sharing seeds and foods and everything's, I don't know, I was impressed that we were a little bit more prepared and resilient than I was expecting.
And now you've got
Yeah.
some more turkeys.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, food security is a common theme, like for all of us up here in the north, and talk about that because we've felt it before with like the road closing or missing a few food trucks or what have you. And so I think it's a common theme, but it is really heartwarming to see how much we can really eat locally.
Yeah, and just to see people really start to focus on that. Like there was so much push to buy local and that should be what it's like all the time. And I really hope that that's a change that happens. And I think the Yukon's really good about that anyway, especially over the last few years. Like I said, there's so many really cool small businesses here and people are so supportive. And I think just like that extra little bump to those, if we can kind of maintain that, I think, yeah, we could be having a better experience here and also, yeah, be more secure. It kind of helps everybody really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any songs, podcasts, books that are kind of getting you through these days that you'd recommend?
I honestly, no, I listen to a lot of podcasts but they're mostly these days just news, and I definitely wouldn't recommend that. So I do listen to a lot of audiobooks. That's something that I was just listening to The Vanishing Half, which is a novel. It's very good. So I spend a lot of time out either working in a kitchen alone or in the greenhouse alone. So audiobooks kind of get me through that and help me stay kind of focused on what I'm doing. But yeah, otherwise, not really. I would say get outside before it starts snowing again. That's
The beautiful sounds of nature.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time today. It's been a real treat to talk to somebody up in Dawson and check in and see how you're doing.
Well, thanks for checking in, and good luck with this project.
Thank you. Awesome.